Good morning and welcome to this webinar with Reinteractive. And I'm very happy today to be joined by Jonathan Milgate of Camplify. Camplify is a great Australian success story company that went from a startup in Newcastle to what is today an international success story. And that happened in just a few short years. So as I said, joined by Jonathan today to tell us a little bit about that. So Jonathan, welcome. Do you
Thank
want to
you.
tell us a little bit about yourself and about maybe a little bit about your tech background and
Sure.
experience?
Yeah, sure. It doesn't feel like a few short years, if I'm honest. It's been a long slog, but it's been fun. So hi, I'm Jonathan, Chief Technology Officer for Camplify and CHL. We're a peer-to-peer platform for campervan, caravan, and motorhome rental. We've, as you said, started out of Newcastle. We're still based in Newcastle. Our head office is in Newcastle, but now we are in 7 different countries across the globe, in 4 different languages. So I guess my background again, I started quite a few years ago in a undergraduate degree in software and systems and software development. You know, the good old sort of software development track. I've worked for a number of organizations around the country in geospatial startups, online marketplaces, multinational insurance companies, lots of different sort of roles in those places. It was during my time at one of the larger, the multinational insurance company, where I was exposed to lean and agile and the DevOps movement. And from that, I made a bit of a conscious decision to stop chasing the latest language, stop chasing the AWS certification, so to speak, and focus on people, performance, and processes. And I enrolled myself in an MBA. And really focused on, like I said, the people and processes to how to build software, how to make great products. I was part of a team that hosted DevOps Days in Newcastle in 2018, the global conference hosted out of Newcastle. And it was from all of those sorts of things that I met Justin, the CEO from Camplify, just down at the pub down the road from here, and we had lunch and talked about taking over the world and how to make this thing great. Yeah, and it all sort of stemmed from there.
Yeah, fantastic. Probably a very successful lunch.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad actually.
And just to round it out a little bit, tell us a little bit about what Camplify is. I'm sure a lot of people who are viewing at the
Sure.
moment have heard of Camplify and know of its success, but just tell us
Yeah,
a little
great.
bit anyway.
No, it's funny. It's funny to have these conversations now. And when I started 4 or 5 years ago, it was very different. We had to explain not only what Camplify was, but what a peer-to-peer platform was, or what a two-sided economy was, or that sort of thing. So essentially, it's a peer-to-peer platform for caravans, campervans, and motorhomes. You want to rent a caravan, campervan, or a motorhome, or any sort of recreational vehicle, really. You come to us and you rent them not from us, from an owner. So it's peer-to-peer. So we don't actually own any of the vehicles. We're just facilitating the hire between the two. Yeah, it started in Newcastle through Slingshot Accelerator. This is quite a few years ago now. And as I said, it's moved into 7 countries and 4 languages. We're probably the largest fleet of RVs in the world. And also more recently, we've been working closely with government authorities to help assist flood victims with our fleet of vehicles, because we can get the mobility
Ah.
there. And we have this large fleet of vehicles that are accessible.
That's interesting. Being peer to peer, and I think those sorts of businesses are probably the best example of the technology isn't just core to the business, but it is the business.
Yeah, definitely. It truly is, and we've felt that a few times. You know, a traditional business, B2C, B2B, there's a lot of options to buy something off the shelf. But when you're peer to peer, that a lot of the times that just doesn't exist. Our best example is probably our invoicing system, where we were using some off the shelf products and some other services, and essentially we became too big and too complex for them, and they almost told us to go away. So we built our own. We built our own invoicing system. We built our own sort of owner payment system, and that has helped us scale and grow. And
Mm.
that's going to be one of the keys for us moving forward.
Would you say that's part of, or is the success of Camplify is building your own solutions to the problems rather than taking things off the shelf?
I think that's played a part of it early on. That doesn't help you scale very well. You know, like if you're putting a lot of effort into rebuilding or cottage industry, and then you probably aren't going to scale as well. But it's definitely a part of what made us successful initially.
Mm.
We had this idea that we could do this, or Justin had the great idea that he wanted to go caravanning again, like he did when he was a child. But there just wasn't anything to do that. So how do we make that happen? So we really took lessons out of the lean playbook, try and fail, build what's necessary to achieve whatever goal it is or whatever problem we need to solve. And then that reflects really on our product and development team. Still, we move really quickly. We try not to break too many things, and we learn and quickly grow again. So that's sort of how the team and the product has grown, in being really lean, trying to figure out what the problem is, trying to solve that problem.
Mm. Okay. All right. So then, without giving away too many proprietary secrets, can you tell us a little bit about what your tech stack is? And I think most importantly, why it is that tech stack has allowed you to be agile and scale.
Yeah, sure. So, initially, when we first launched, obviously we did the proof of concept with a bit of a WordPress site and some smoke and mirrors. But when that was proven, we had picked Ruby on Rails as our core system, mostly because it's a holistic tech stack. It gives us the speed to market. It's got security and processes built in. It's a solid maintained framework with a good community around it and good community available of developers. There's other organizations around the same time that we launched using it. Airbnb, Shopify, they're all Ruby on Rails shops, and it's scalable. It was scalable at the time. It's still scalable now. Really choosing Rails has helped us avoid the traditional 7-year itch of startups where we haven't had to refactor. We've spent time working on tech debt and modernizing our stack, but we've been able to reassess without having to completely refactor because we chose Rails.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. So, would you select the same tech stack today if you were starting off Camplify today?
It's a really interesting question, and I'm not sure of the answer, to be honest. I think Rails has done us a great job, and potentially would choose it again. There's other options out there now that weren't around at the time. There's a lot of low code and no code options, but uh, I feel like they're really good to prove your concept, but they don't scale. So
Mm.
your other options are to go with something completely serverless as a back end and some flavor of JavaScript front end,
Mm.
which would probably work and be quite successful. My concerns around that are the longevity of each flavor of JavaScript. It seems like there's a new flavor out every month, and they're a little bit of the wild, wild west. So what you do now potentially won't work in a year or 2 years. So it's a tricky question right now. I don't know that there's a specific language that I would pick. Like Rails is still very popular. It's still available, and it's still going to get you to market really quickly. Its longevity, not sure at this stage, but I think it's still a very valid selection.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Uh, Completely in the land of opinion now. We've heard someone who's very prominent in the Rails space taking his apps off cloud servers and
Mm.
into local servers again. Would you consider a thing like that, and maybe why or why not?
Well, funnily enough, I've actually had this conversation 2 or 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and it's a little unexpected. It's not something I thought I'd be talking about in 2023. There's many other problems for me to solve,
Yeah.
um, and it made me a bit like when I first had that question, I was like, no, why would I do that? But I've reflected a little bit on it, and I understand why some are doing it. For us right now, it's not. Camplify is more focused on the people and the product than where we are hosted at the moment. And it's not, and server cloud services are expensive. And that's
Mm.
why I think a lot of companies right now are reassessing how they use cloud, where they're hosted, and why. Um, and who owns that data? And there's things like, GDPR plays a big part in that. Where is it hosted? How is it maintained? How is it secured? For us, it's not something that's on our cards. A refactor out of a cloud service would not give us the return on investment.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I completely understand why some services are looking at doing that.
It's definitely topical right now. I'm assuming that either way, you still have to do DevOps, like it's a requirement regardless. So,
That's it. It's always going to be a requirement. I think with Rails, though, the way Rails is set up in the back end and having Ruby as your back end language sort of plays into that as well. Camplify doesn't have a dedicated DevOps team. We have our back end engineers double up in that space. That's my background. DevOps is obviously my background. Um, so it's interesting to see how we maintain that and the level of serverless that we've chosen in order to make the platform grow. So we really want to get out of our own way and not spend too much time managing servers and managing infrastructure. We want to build great systems and great products for our customers.
so automate as much as possible.
That's right. Yep.
Which is actually brings me to another interesting point, which is as you grow and as you expand, how do you divide up the team? Like you have your internal Rails team, they obviously double up on the DevOps. Do you start specializing people at a certain point, or do you like that model of having everyone expert across the boards?
I think that's a great question. I'm actually right in the middle of that right now as we expand through Germany. Um, in the past, we've always sort of focused on full stack developers because we had a full stack. Rails was our full stack. We're moving more towards a React front end and React native apps. So that means we have a little bit of a divergence from there. But the goal is still around the product. It's around creating great experiences for the people that use Camplify. So the teams are focused around delivering features. We have feature teams, they're cross-functional teams, and they are 100% focused on delivering a feature, the best way to deliver that feature to our customers. So we do have more sort of subject matter experts, and we have technical guilds within the teams, but it's still focus a bit on understanding the entire stack, but with maybe a bit of subject matter expert.
Hmm. How did you go about finding those team of experts then? Because, we often hear that it's difficult to find senior developers and senior people who understand enough. How did you go about solving that problem?
Yeah, we've gone many different ways and attempted lots of different things and explored many options. And some of the things that worked really well for us is we have some really great senior developers in the team, and we can use them to build up others. So we'll take we have great group work with the local university in Newcastle. We do work integrated learning with them, and we've had some really interesting developers come through there. We obviously work with Reinteractive to bolster the team when we need, but finding people, I think we're pretty lucky that we've got a pretty cool product. I guess it's easy to say, hey, we Camplify peer to peer. Do you want to come and build some fun stuff? And we don't take ourselves too seriously, but we take our work really seriously. So we've built a great community and culture within the business in order to foster those people and provide what they want, and you give them the autonomy to become really good at their jobs, giving them the control to decide when and what they need to build, and giving them the purpose. Like, what are we doing? We're sending people on holidays. It's a kind of it's a fun thing to do. Everybody wants to experience the van life. It says it right behind me, van life for all. It's really popular at the moment, and we live and breathe that culture.
I guess then if you're doing that, I mean, you're going to hang on to your fair share, but you can also throw back into the community now more experienced developers.
Yeah, and that's been a thing too. So yes, we've been sort of building off that community. We've had a few from the team grow within my team and then move on to larger organizations and larger roles. And we've always said to them, hey, if you ever want to come back, if you learn something over there, come back and teach us. But at the same time, we try to build within the team. One of the things that's worked really well recently for me is looking at people who potentially have their second career or a career change, or have had done a degree in something not software related, so biology, or even I think one of my team has a degree in philosophy, and now they've moved and started learning software development, and so we've taken them in under our wing and taught them from the team structure that we have, and building them up to be great Rails developers.
Uh, Here's a question that you probably can't answer. What's in the water in Newcastle? Because there's a lot of great developers that come out of there and a lot of great businesses.
There's definitely something going on here. I don't think it's anything new. I've been around in Newcastle for a little while, so I've seen a lot growing. And it's definitely we maybe have a bit of a chip on our shoulder against, we're not Sydney, we're still a regional, but there's definitely something going on here. There's a great community of developers here, and there's a great community of technologists. There's a lot of data analytics, a lot of cybersecurity engineers around Newcastle as well. There's definitely something going on here. There's some really cool companies here, some big companies taking on the world, and there's some amazing startups. We've had a great startup scene for the last, maybe 10 years, and we're starting to see that come into fruition now with the likes of Camplify, obviously, switched in doing amazing things. MGA Thermals built out of Newcastle. There's some really amazing stuff happening here. So yeah, we want to foster that. We want to grow that community,
Mm,
and yeah, hopefully Camplify can play a big part in that.
yeah, 100%. And representing the world on the world stage. Um,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
pretty exciting.
Mm. Going back to Rails, obviously Reinteractive is a Ruby on Rails development firm and definitely the language of choice. For you, what part did Rails play in that expansion? Like, are there specific aspects of that, or do you think you could have got that out of any other language, like any other popular
Hmm.
language, I should say?
That's a great question. There's a lot of variables there. I think the team would look different if we weren't using Rails, but the culture I hope would be the same. So, and I really believe that what we've got is a great culture, and that's why we've been successful in terms of what our development and product stack looks like.
Hmm.
But Rails, I think the developer experience of Rails is what makes it what it is.
Right.
There's a great community. It's a solid, well maintained framework. Like I said, there's um, there's some great organizations like Reinteractive that we can work with in a co-source kind of method to help us scale. And I think Rails is one of the reasons we can do that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting when I look at the Rails community. I see developers who enjoy not just doing what they're doing, but they enjoy talking about it. They enjoy playing with it. They enjoy starting, the side hustles and the hobby sites
Yep.
that developers like to do, like all of that sort of stuff. Do
It's
you see that?
definitely a language where you can, yeah, it's definitely a language where you can build something really quickly, something that's tangible very quickly. There's a few other things around like that now. Gatsby's pretty great at doing that, but it doesn't have the scalability or the sort of infrastructure behind it that Rails does. So, yeah, you definitely see it. I know the people that I know that have chosen Rails stick with it.
Hmm.
Um, they don't like to look at too much else. There's like, oh, I like Rails, why would I change? And it's probably the most natural language that I've ever used. So yeah, I think it's still a great product and a great tech stack.
Mm. From my viewpoint, and mine is an almost exclusively sales viewpoint, but I like telling people Rails is good because it is a language that large teams can collaborate on. Like, you can have people working on separate things, they don't walk on each other's feet, and it's easily,
Sure.
you can hand it over from one developer to the next. So somebody completes, someone else takes it over, and there's not really interruptible. Is this something you see in truth, or is this just sales speak from me?
I think I think one of the things that I've mentioned it before, the developer experience around Rails is one of the greatest things, and I think the Rails way really sort of paves that. So this is the way you do Rails. Um, Makes it easier for you to swap and change and bring people in and bring people out. And if you do Rails somewhere as you're doing the Rails way, then it should be the same anywhere, right? There's a really declarative way to build in Ruby on Rails if you do it that way, and it is scalable, and it is transferable.
Hmm. Yeah, great. Excellent. All right. So we've heard about the expansion of Camplify and what's happened in the past and why you've selected some of the things that you've selected technology wise. What is the future, both on a technology view and as a business? What's the future?
So growth, profitability, all those sorts of buzzwords that they all talk about. We're a
I'm sure the
publicly listed
shareholders are
company,
listening.
so yes, I'm very cautious about what I say. But yeah, we're a publicly listed company, so all of those numbers are available on our investor site if you'd like to go and have a look. Yeah, growth and profitability. I make jokes, but that's really what it is. We've recently acquired a company in Germany that operates in Germany, Austria, and the Netherlands. So scaling with them, bringing them under the CHL banner, and making the entire organization profitable. We're moving. I guess we're moving out of the scale up out of the startup into the scale up, and looking for profitability. How can we make this company run smoothly, grow, but not cost as we grow? So how can we scale how can we scale bookings, vans, listings, without having to scale the internal teams that run them? And a lot of
Mm,
that is around automations, optimizations, and self-service. So allowing our customers to be hands-on and do what they need to do without needing to contact us, giving them their own tools to run their business.
mm. Is there a point for you where you go, features are done and now the site is just as it is and we just scale it? Or are you always thinking, hey, we need to add this new feature here or
Oh,
we need to improve that
I hope
feature?
not. I hope it's never that. I hope it's always more features, more features. Um, I can't imagine a day when we walk into a management meeting and go, okay, so we've got nothing else to build. Now we
Done.
just make it scalable. Um, yeah, I don't think that would be very interesting, and I think that's not part of the Camplify culture.
Mm,
We're very innovative. We break molds. We expand and grow, and we change and break different things all the time. And I think that's one of the keys to the success of this business is
right.
not taking the no for an answer, not sitting back when people tell us you can't do this, because we believe you can.
Mm. So then it's a constant thing of always listening to your users, which in this case are the people who own the vans and the people who rent the vans, and what do
That's
they
right.
want or what could they potentially want in the future? So we build it today, so when they do want it, it's available.
That's right. So it's sort of that twofold, like what are they doing? How are they doing it? What do they need now? And what will they need in the future? What makes us growth? What makes us scalable and grow in the future? And what are those potential side horizontal expansion that we can do to assist the hirers and renters and owners, for our platforms?
Does any of this change what the future of your stack is? Like, would you consider um, adding other microservices, perhaps in other languages? Would you consider a different server? Would you consider, like, does any of this change?
I think being really innovative and agile means that you have to consider that all the time. Not long ago, we went through uh, an assessment, essentially to rebuild our front end. The rail stack wasn't providing with some of the features that we needed to make our front end really beautiful. So we've moved that to React, and our mobile apps are React native. So there's a
Nice.
nice mix there.
Mm,
Um, in terms of completely redoing the back end, I don't know that that would be on the cards. It's not really, as I said, the return on investment is not going to be there to completely rebuild everything. But there's definitely the potential to look at microservicing out certain things, especially if they're not part of that core service. And when we do that, there's options to run serverless with Ruby,
mm,
but there's options to run serverless with other things, and other ways to use different languages. So it would be on a case by case basis, but at the same time, the team knows Rails, so it would
right.
likely be the choice of the
Right.
language of the future.
Right. Who your team are. Okay. So, um, any advice that you would offer to a CTO or a lead engineer or someone else in a similar position to yours? Maybe they're starting up and they've got this great idea. What advice?
Yeah, that's a great one. I think we touched on it before with low code and no code solutions. I think those are getting more and more popular. They are a great way to test an unfounded idea. See, is this actually a thing? But I see them as more of a high fidelity prototype. I'm not sure about the scalability of them.
Mm,
So I think if you're going to go down that path, then definitely get it done and get it done quickly, and then make a choice to build things that can actually scale. but not at the expense of getting the product out. The real thing you've got to do is you have to be lean. If you're not putting something, if you're not building it, you're not releasing it, someone else is. You've got to really have that sort of mindset where if someone else is doing this, like nothing is new. People have always, or the next product is coming. Is it mine or is it someone else's? And if you can get out there first and get it in front of your customers and learn from that, then you're going to be a step ahead of everybody else. So it's get something out in the environment, get it tested and learn. But finally, I think investing in your people is more important than investing in a new tech stack. So the team you've got currently is going to be able to get you where you need to be if you invest in them.
Right. Right. That sounds like a great mantra, looking after the people and the culture first.
Yeah, it's a huge part of what we do.
Right, right. And just as a final point, you mentioned that you completed an MBA and also, did you say data science was your major when you went to uni?
No, software and systems development,
Right.
but
Yep.
focus on DevOps.
How crucial
So
are
I
those
did
things? How crucial are those things in
my,
forming who you are and what you do today?
I think that's huge. I don't think that I could be a CTO, especially of a tech company, if I didn't have that background. I
Yeah.
think the DevOps background is plays a huge part in it as well, so I can understand how we can scale and what sort of decisions to make and when in terms of infrastructure and architecture. And I think that's helped us grow. But yeah, I think most of my team now like to refer to me as post-technical, which kind of hurts inside, but it's not untrue. But I'm glad that I've got that background so that we can still have those conversations. And maybe I just play a rubber ducky to them now rather than an actual peer. But yeah, I think having that background was super important.
At least it makes you feel like you're contributing to it.
That's true, yeah. It makes me feel like they treat me like I know what I'm talking about. So maybe I do, I'm not sure.
I'm sure they're all laughing at the screen right now.
I hope not.
No, of course they're working, of course.
True, that is, yes. Get back to work.
All right, so just real fast then, we're going to wrap up in a second, but just anyone on the line viewing at the moment want to ask any questions?
Thank you for having me. I think the relationship that we have with Reinteractive has been a really good one. Being able to, I think I mentioned it before, co-source Rails development has allowed us to be a bit more elastic and build out some things that potentially we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much. And of course, we're extremely proud to be part of your journey, if in a minor way, but at least part of it. We absolutely love supporting and backing up companies such as yours, especially the Australian successes. So thank you very much. And thank you everyone
thank you
for coming on today. Thank you. Goodbye.